My name is Cassandra Whitmore. I'm 30 years old. And for 26 of those years I believed I was adopted. Last spring at my cousin's wedding in Hartwell, South Carolina, my Aunt Patricia had 4 glasses of champagne and said 7 words that detonated 3 families. What happened in the 5 days after that wedding? The DNA results. The letter I discovered in my mother's bedroom. The half-sister I never even knew existed. I couldn't have invented this if I tried. I took the test on a Monday. By Thursday, 3 families had completely unraveled. And the woman who kept everything together through silence and Sunday roasts, she never saw any of it coming. Before I take you back to that Saturday in spring, do me a favor and hit like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Tell me where you're tuning in from and what time it is right now. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Now let me bring you back to Hartwell. Population 4,000. The kind of place where everyone knows your name, your business, and which row you sit in at church on Sunday mornings. I grew up 2 streets past the fire station in a pale blue house with a wooden fence, and a mother who reminded me every single week just how lucky I was to have been chosen. Chosen. That word followed me everywhere. My mother, Donna, had a way of saying it that sounded like a gift. We picked you, Cassandra, out of everyone. We picked you. She said it at the dinner table. She said it in the car. She said it when I asked for new trainers and she said no because Mason, my older brother, her biological son, needed football boots first. Mason is 33, 3 years older than me. He got the larger bedroom, the first car, the college savings. I got a twin mattress in the room next to the boiler and a very clear understanding of the family order. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't neglected. I was fed. I had clothing. I went to school. But there was a dividing line in that house. Mason stood on one side. I stood on the other. And that line was drawn with one single word: adopted. When I was 12, I asked my mom about my birth parents. Just once. She cried for 2 hours, sat on the kitchen floor with her knees pulled to her chest. Mascara streaked down her face, telling me I was breaking her heart. My dad, Gerald, came home from work, found her on the floor, looked at me and said, "What did you do?" I was 12. I asked a simple question. I never asked again. Not at 13. Not at 16. Not at 22 when I graduated with a degree in biomedical laboratory science. And nobody from my birth family was in the audience, because I had been trained to believe they simply didn't want me. That's 14 years of silence. Not because I didn't care, because my mother made caring feel like betrayal. I put myself through university completely on my own. 4 years of scholarships, part-time lab shifts, and instant noodles. Biomedical laboratory science. The kind of program where you spend every day running blood panels and genetic screenings for people who need real answers about their own bodies. Graduation day, Donna didn't come. She was helping Mason move into his new place. Mason, who had received a down payment from my parents. Mason, whose apartment was 40 minutes away. My ceremony was at 2 o'clock on a Saturday, and she chose to carry boxes instead. Gerald came alone. He drove an hour and a half in his work truck. He sat in the very last row with a bouquet from the petrol station. I saw him clap when they called my name. That's the image I hold on to. My dad in steel-capped boots, sitting behind 300 strangers, holding garage forecourt carnations like they were roses. I was hired at Bramford Valley General Hospital. Starting salary £52,000. I process diagnostic tests, hematology, genetic screenings, tumor markers. I confirm other people's worst fears in triplicate, and I do it with steady hands and a calm voice. By 28, I owned a house. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. Self-financed. No help from Donna. No help from Grandma Agnes. No help from anyone with the last name Whitmore. Here's the part that still gets me. I process DNA samples 5 days a week. Paternity tests, kinship panels, prenatal screenings. I've told strangers their children aren't biologically theirs. I've watched relationships collapse on the other side of a lab report. But I never ran my own test. Never even considered it because I already knew the answer. I was adopted. End of story. Except it wasn't. Every family has a throne. In the Whitmore family, Grandma Agnes built hers out of 38 acres and Sunday dinners. Agnes Whitmore is 78 years old. She's been a member of Hartwell Community Church since 1972 and has chaired its Women's Fellowship since 1998. She owns 38 acres of farmland north of the main road, land worth roughly £280,000, and she runs Sunday lunch at her farmhouse like a military commander runs a briefing. Attendance is not optional. Every Sunday at 1 o'clock, the family gathers around her 10-seat dining table. You sit where she tells you. You eat what she serves. You say grace when she nods at you. And you do not, under any circumstances, question Grandma Agnes. 6 months before the wedding in October, Agnes called a family dinner to announce her estate plan. I sat at the far end of the table between Mason's wife, Claire, and an empty chair that nobody claimed. Mason would receive 14 acres. Olivia, Gerald's niece, Agnes's other grandchild, would receive 9 acres. The remaining 15 acres would go to the church building fund. My name was not mentioned. I raised my hand. Not dramatically. Just a small lift like I was asking a question in a classroom. Grandma Agnes, what about me? She looked at me over her reading glasses, patient, almost gentle. The land stays within the bloodline, sweetheart. You understand? 10 people at that table. Not one of them said a word. I nodded, said thank you for dinner, drove home, and sat in my car in the driveway for 11 minutes before going inside. I didn't understand then. But the bloodline she was protecting, I was already in it. Uncle Richard was different. Richard Whitmore is Gerald's younger brother. He's 50 years old, a carpenter who runs a one-man workshop out of a converted garage on Ferndale Lane. He builds custom shelving, fitted wardrobes, rocking chairs. A quiet man with calloused hands, the kind of person who says more with a nod than most people say in a full paragraph. He's the one who showed up every single time. When I was 8, he gave me a birthday present nobody else had remembered to buy. A small silver locket on a thin chain. Inside, the letter C was engraved. Tiny, careful lettering. That C is for you, he said. Nobody else. Donna watched him hand it to me. She didn't say thank you. She pressed her lips together and turned back to the kitchen. Richard came to my science competition in year 8, drove 40 minutes. He came to my graduation, sat 3 rows behind Gerald wearing a clean pressed shirt. He texted me the morning I started at Bramford Valley. Proud of you, Cass. Always. His wife, Patricia, was harder to read. Warm enough, brought desserts to every gathering, hugged me at holidays, but sometimes I'd catch her watching me. Not with hostility. More like she was measuring something. Comparing. Looking at my face and then looking away too quickly, the way you do when you've almost said something you shouldn't. I wore that locket every day under my scrubs against my collarbone, where nobody could see it. 22 years. I thought it was a gift from a kind uncle who treated me better than the rest of them did. I was right about the kind part. I was wrong about the uncle. January, 3 months before the wedding, Gerald collapsed at the warehouse where he'd managed logistics for 19 years. Mild stroke. His right side went weak. They called an ambulance at 10:14 in the morning. I was at work in the same hospital. I heard his name over the intercom. Whitmore Gerald. Incoming emergency. And my coffee mug hit the counter before the announcement finished. I ran downstairs. Scrubs, lanyard, the whole thing. I knew every nurse on that floor. I reached his room in under 4 minutes. Donna arrived 40 minutes later. Coat half buttoned, bag hanging off one arm. She looked at me standing beside Gerald's bed. And the very first thing she said was not, "How is he?" It was not, "Thank God you were here." She turned to the charge nurse and said, "She's not next of kin. She's adopted. Medical decisions are mine." 11 words. The nurse looked at me. I stepped back into the corridor. Gerald recovered. He needed rehabilitation, a medication adjustment, and someone nearby to monitor him closely. I live 8 minutes from the hospital. I work in the building. But Donna chose Mason. Mason, who lives 2 hours south. Mason, who visits maybe twice a month. I didn't argue. I swallowed it the way I've been swallowing things for 26 years, jaw tight, driveway empty. That evening, my partner, Daniel, 32, a structural engineer, the most grounded person I've ever known, sat across from me at our kitchen table and said something I had never once considered. "Cass, have you ever actually seen your adoption papers?" I opened my mouth to answer, then closed it. No, I hadn't. April. Olivia Whitmore's wedding to James Hendry. Olivia is Richard and Patricia's daughter. She's 25. Sweet girl. I've always liked Olivia. She's the one cousin who never made me feel like an afterthought. The ceremony was at Hartwell Community Church, Agnes's church, naturally, and the reception at a barn venue on Garrett Road. 180 guests, fairy lights, a country band, the whole gorgeous, expensive affair. Donna rang me the Tuesday before. Not to ask how I was doing, not to offer a lift. She rang to assign me a seat. You're at table 9 with the cousins. Table 9. Across the room from the family tables, between James's university flatmate and his grandmother's neighbor from Bristol. That's where she placed me. Mason sat at table 1 with Donna, Gerald, Agnes, Richard, and Patricia. The bloodline table. I told Daniel. He set his fork down and looked at me for a long time. We don't have to go. I'm going for Olivia. Not for them. Saturday came. I wore a navy dress I'd found on sale. 22 pounds. I clasped the silver locket around my neck. Daniel drove. We arrived at the barn at 5:15. String lights, lavender centerpieces, the scent of oak and something floral. 180 people who all knew each other's lives. Agnes spotted me first, gave one nod, no smile. Richard spotted me second, came over, pulled me into a hug, held on a beat longer than usual. I felt his hand press firmly against my back. The way someone holds on when they know something you don't. Patricia watched from the bar. She was already on her second glass. The reception moved the way small-town weddings do. Slow at first, then louder after the toasts. Mason gave a speech, stood up at table 1, tapped his glass, and said something about roots and blood running deep. This family, he said, we look after our own. Daniel squeezed my hand under the table. The band played. People danced. Cake was cut. The photographer moved through the room snapping candids nobody asked for. Aunt Patricia, Richard's wife, mother of the bride, kept drinking. By 9 o'clock, she'd moved from champagne to wine. I watched her from across the room. 48 years old, hair pinned up, mascara beginning to blur. She laughed too loudly at something James's mother said. She hugged Olivia twice in 10 minutes, wiping her eyes both times. Then she excused herself and walked toward the toilets. Her path took her right past table 9. Past me. She stopped. I looked up. She was standing close. Close enough that I could smell the wine and her perfume, something floral, something heavy. She looked at my face, then at the locket, then back at my face. Richard always did have a soft spot for you. She said it quietly, half smiling, eyes glassy. Across the room, Richard noticed her standing at my table. I watched his face change. The color drained from it like someone had pulled a plug. Donna saw it too. She set her glass down and began walking toward us. But Patricia wasn't done. She leaned closer. Her breath was warm. Her voice barely above a whisper. And she said the 7 words that ended 26 years of silence. You know, you look exactly like Uncle Richard, right? 7 words. I laughed. Automatic response. People say things like that sometimes. No, honey. Patricia shook her head. Slow, deliberate. Exactly like him. The jaw, the eyes, that little dimple on the left side. She pointed at the locket. He never gave Olivia anything like that. Not once. Donna reached us, took Patricia's arm firmly. She's had too much to drink. Don't listen to her. Come on, Patricia. Patricia let herself be steered away. She glanced back over her shoulder at me one last time. Her eyes weren't cloudy anymore. They were clear. Sad. Like she just set down something she'd been carrying for a very long time. Daniel leaned over. You okay? I wasn't. But I nodded. We left at 10 o'clock. The drive home was 22 minutes. I stared out the window the entire way. Street lamps, open fields, dark houses with porch lights on. And in the passenger mirror, my own face staring back at me. The jaw. The eyes. The dimple. Daniel broke the silence at the level crossing on Palmer Road. You're thinking about what she said. I'm a lab scientist, Daniel. I solve problems with evidence. I paused. And I just realized I've never looked at my own. He didn't try to talk me out of it. He just drove. At home, I kicked off my heels at the front door, hung the navy dress on the bathroom hook, sat on the bed in a t-shirt and opened my laptop. DNA ancestry kit. 79 pounds. Results in 7 to 10 working days. I clicked purchase at 11:47 p.m. on a Saturday night in spring. I'd processed over 600 DNA tests that year. It took one woman at a wedding to make me finally run my own. Cassandra just ordered a DNA kit at midnight after a wedding that shook her to her core. If you've ever had one sentence rewrite your entire childhood, you know this feeling. Hit the like button for Cassandra. And if you're watching this late at night, I see you. Stay with me. This is where it gets real. Monday. The box arrived faster than I expected. Small white, a barcode sticker on the side. It sat on my kitchen counter like a grenade with the pin still in. Daniel was at work. I stood alone in my kitchen at 6:30 in the morning. Coffee going cold. Staring at a cardboard box that weighed barely a few grams. I'd handled thousands of sample kits at the hospital. Opened them, labeled them, processed them, filed them. This was the same thing. Same science. Same procedure. Different stakes. I opened the box. Instruction card, collection tube, swab, biohazard bag, prepaid return label. I read the instructions even though I could have written them myself. Swab the inside of your cheek for 60 seconds. Deposit the swab in the tube. Seal. Place in the bag. Post. 60 seconds. That's all it takes to start an earthquake. I swabbed at the kitchen sink. Sealed the tube. Wrote my name on the label in the same handwriting I use on lab reports. Neat. Clinical. Capital letters. Whitmore. Cassandra M. Dropped it in the postbox on my way to work. At the hospital, I clocked in at 7:15. Normal shift. Processed 19 samples before lunch. 3 of them were paternity panels. I handled them the same way I always do, gloves, protocol, detachment. But when I pulled the third one from the centrifuge, I stopped. Held it up to the fluorescent light. Somebody's blood. Somebody's answer. Somebody's life about to change. One of these could be mine, I whispered. Nobody heard me. 7 to 10 days. The countdown started. Day 3. Donna rang me. That alone was unusual. My mother doesn't call to check in. She calls to give instructions, deliver opinions, or remind me of obligations. But this call started with, "Hey, sweetheart. Just wanted to hear your voice." I held the phone away from my ear and stared at the screen. Donna Whitmore. Not a wrong number. "I'm fine, Mom. What's going on?" "Nothing. Nothing at all. Just thinking about you." Her voice was too light. Like she was reading from a script she'd rehearsed in the car. Day 4. Mason texted me. "Heads up, Mom's acting strange. She cleared out the airing cupboard this morning. Top shelf. Even pulled down the old storage boxes." I read that text 3 times. The airing cupboard. Top shelf. Storage boxes. Day 5. Grandma Agnes rang. This had happened exactly twice in my adult life. Once to tell me Gerald was in hospital, and once to tell me what time to arrive for Christmas dinner. Now she was calling to invite me to Sunday lunch. "It's been too long, dear. We'd love to see you." I said I'd be there. Hung up. Sat on the back step with Daniel and laid it all out. Donna emptying cupboard she hasn't touched in years. Agnes suddenly warm and inviting. Both of them starting this the exact same week I posted a DNA sample. Daniel rubbed his jaw. Either they're genuinely trying, or they know something's coming. Patricia told Donna what she said at the wedding. And now they're circling. Day 6. My phone buzzed at 6:12 in the morning. Not Donna. Not Agnes. The DNA company. "Your results are ready." Monday. 6:42 a.m. Kitchen table. Coffee untouched. Laptop open. I logged in and clicked view results. The page loaded in sections. Ethnicity estimate first, then ancestry composition, then the part that mattered. Ethnicity. 97. 9% Northern European, consistent with the Whitmore family background. I stared at that number. If I'd been adopted, if I came from a completely different family, why did my DNA match the Whitmore ethnic profile so precisely? Coincidence exists, but I'm a lab scientist. I don't trust coincidence. I trust data. I clicked DNA relatives. And the floor dropped. Richard Whitmore, parent 50% shared DNA. Agnes Whitmore, grandparent 25% shared DNA. Mason Whitmore, half-sibling 23. 8% shared DNA. I read it again. Then a third time because my training tells me to verify before I react. Parent. Not uncle. Not cousin. Parent. Richard Whitmore is my biological father. I wasn't adopted. I was never adopted. They told me I was adopted for 26 years. And it was a lie. The whole thing, the gratitude, the second-class status, the exclusion from the estate, the airing cupboard door, it was all built on a lie. And then Patricia's voice came back, clear as a bell on a quiet morning. You know, you look exactly like Uncle Richard, right? She was right. She'd always been right. I closed the laptop, set my hands flat on the table, breathe. For minutes. I counted. The coffee went cold. The fridge hummed. A bird hit the kitchen window and flew away. Then I called my manager. I won't be in today. I opened the laptop again, because there was one more match I hadn't recognized. Natalie Osborne, half-sibling, 24. 1% shared DNA. I didn't know a Natalie Osborne. I'd never heard the name. But the DNA said she and I shared a father. One question answered. Two new ones I wasn't ready for. I spent 2 hours on the DNA platform cross-referencing. Natalie Osborne, 27 years old. Listed location: Cranford, South Carolina, 45 minutes southeast of Hartwell. She shared 50% DNA with Richard Whitmore. The same as me. That meant Richard didn't just father one secret child. He fathered two with two different women. I sent Natalie a message through the platform. Kept it simple. Hi Natalie, I think we may be related. I'd like to talk if you're open to it. She responded in 47 minutes. I've been waiting for this message my whole life. We spoke on the phone for an hour and a half. Natalie's voice was quiet, careful. She chose her words the way I choose mine, like someone trained from an early age to hold things in. Her story. Her mother, Sandra Osborne, always told her that her father was a man who left before she was born. Natalie grew up in Cranford with Sandra and a stepfather, Michael Osborne, who married Sandra when Natalie was 3. Michael and Sandra divorced when Natalie was 10. Michael still sends birthday cards. Still calls her his daughter. Natalie took a DNA test 2 years ago, searching for her biological father. No matches then, the databases were smaller. But when I submitted mine this year, the algorithm connected us. So Richard is your father too, Natalie said. Not a question. Yes. And nobody told you either. No. They told me I was adopted instead. A long pause. Then Natalie said something that sat in my chest like a weight. One affair I could almost understand. 2 children by 2 different women, hidden for decades. That's not a mistake, Cassandra. That's a system. She was right. And systems have architects. Tuesday afternoon. Donna works at the florist from noon to 5. Gerald was home resting in the armchair with a blood pressure cuff on his arm and a crossword on his lap. I drove to my parents' house. Parked behind Gerald's van. Went inside. Gerald looked up from his puzzle. Cass. Wasn't expecting you. Hey Dad. I need to grab something. A form at work needs a copy of my adoption paperwork. Medical records thing. Gerald held my gaze for 3 seconds longer than normal. Ask your mother. She handles all the documents. She's at work. I'll just check the cupboard. Won't be long. He didn't stop me. He didn't follow me either. He went back to his crossword, but I could feel him listening. The way you listen when you know the next room is about to go very quiet. I went to the main bedroom, opened the airing cupboard, top shelf. The shelf Mason had said Donna cleared out. 2 storage boxes. A stack of old Christmas cards held together with an elastic band. And pushed to the very back corner, a brown envelope thick. The corners were yellowed. The flap sealed with old parcel tape that had gone brittle with age. I lifted it down, sat on the edge of the bed, peeled the tape back. No adoption papers. Nothing from an agency. No court filings. No placement documents. Instead, a birth certificate. County of South Carolina. Name Cassandra Marie Whitmore. Mother, Donna Beckett Whitmore. Father blank. And beneath it, a single handwritten sheet. Blue ink. Careful cursive. Dated July 1996. I was 4 months old. Donna, this is the story we tell. She is adopted. We found her through the church network. No one questions the church. Do not let Richard near her in public. Agnes. I read it twice. My hands were steady lab hands, but my heart was running a sprint. I photographed the letter. Photographed the birth certificate. Placed the envelope back exactly where I'd found it. Walked out. Gerald looked up from the armchair. Find what you needed? Yes, Dad. I did. I sat in the car for 6 minutes before starting the engine. Then I called Daniel. I found it. My voice was flat, professional. The same tone I use when I ring a consultant with an abnormal result. There are no adoption papers. There never were. My birth certificate lists Donna as my mother. Father is blank. And there's a handwritten letter from Agnes, dated 1996, telling Donna exactly what story to tell. She designed the whole thing. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then what do you want to do? I want to speak to Richard first. Before anyone else. I'll drive you. I sat in the car a while longer. 3 pieces of evidence. 1 DNA result confirming Richard as my biological father. 1 birth certificate listing Donna as my mother and no father. 1 letter from Agnes, handwritten 1996, laying out the cover story like a set of instructions. 3 documents. 1 lie. 26 years. I called Natalie that evening. I found proof. Physical proof. This goes deeper than either of us thought. How deep? Your father's mother wrote the instructions for the cover-up. Dated 1996. She used the church as the alibi. Natalie exhaled. Long and slow. Take your time, Cassandra. I've waited 27 years. A few more days won't break me. Before I went to bed, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, pulled the locket out from under my shirt. The chain was warm from my skin. The little engraved C caught the light. Not a gift from an uncle. A gift from a father who couldn't say the word. I had the DNA. I had the letter. Now I needed the confession. Wednesday. I drove to Richard's workshop alone. Daniel waited in the car park of the hardware store 2 blocks away. Close enough if I needed him, far enough to let me do this on my own terms. Richard was sanding a walnut tabletop when I walked in, with shavings on his arms, radio playing low. He looked up and smiled the way he always does. Warm. Immediate. Like I was the best part of his afternoon. Cass, what brings you here? I set the DNA printout on the workbench right on top of the sawdust. His smile faded slowly the way stain darkens wood. Not all at once but grain by grain until the original color is gone. He looked at the paper. Looked at me. Looked at the paper again. His hand stopped moving. How long have you known? I asked. He sat down on his work stool, took off his safety glasses, rubbed his eyes with the back of his wrist. 30 seconds of silence. The sander kept running. He reached over and switched it off. Since the day you were born. The workshop was quiet. Just the 2 of us and 30 years of silence between us. He told me. Donna and him. It happened when Gerald was posted away. 6 months stationed up north. Richard was 20. Donna was 24. He came over to help with the gutters, then the roof light, then the kitchen tap, then it was once he said, "Stupid. Wrong." I knew it was wrong. Donna found out she was expecting a month later. Agnes found out a month after that. And Agnes made the decision. She told me if I claimed you I'd lose everything. The workshop, the land, the whole family. He reached toward the locket at my collarbone. His fingers stopped an inch short. I gave you that because I couldn't give you my name. His eyes were red. His voice cracked. I wanted to tell you every single day, Cass. Every single day. I let him sit with that. Then I said what I came to say. You had 10,000 days, Richard. You chose silence on all of them. He flinched. Didn't argue. Do you know who Natalie Osborne is? His face collapsed. He knew. Richard closed his eyes and kept them closed for a long time, like he was hoping the room would be empty when he opened them again. Natalie, he said it the way you say something you've been holding in your mouth for years. Carefully. Like it might cut on the way out. 3 years after you were born, I met a woman in Cranford. Sandra. It lasted 4 months. He pressed his palms against his knees. I don't have an excuse, Cass. I don't have a reason that makes sense. She had your baby. Yes. And you left? Sandra didn't want me to stay. She said she'd handle it. She married a man named Michael a few years later. I sent money when I could, cash, no paper trail. Stopped when Natalie was about 12 when Patricia started going through the bank statements. I leaned against the workbench. Sawdust under my fingers, the smell of walnut oil and wood shavings, and the quiet, desperate arithmetic of a man who fathered 2 children he never claimed. You want me to keep another secret, Richard? For you? He looked at me, eyes wet. Patricia will leave me. You should have thought about that 27 years ago. Please. I'll tell her myself. Just give me time. I looked at this man, my biological father, who had spent 3 decades playing the role of kind uncle, who gave me a locket because he couldn't give me his last name, who stood at the back of the ceremony hall at my graduation and cried where nobody could see him. I wanted to feel sorry for him. Part of me did. But the larger part, the part that spent 26 years being grateful for a family that was already mine, that part was done. I'll give you until Sunday. Sunday came. Richard didn't tell Patricia. So I made my own plan. Friday I met Natalie in person for the first time. A small cafe in Cranford. Exposed brick, mismatched chairs, a handwritten menu on the wall. I arrived 10 minutes early and sat facing the door. When she walked in, I didn't need to check the photo she'd sent me. Brown hair. Left side dimple. Same jaw. She stopped in the doorway, looked at me and laughed. Not a happy laugh. The involuntary kind that escapes when your body doesn't know what else to do. We have the same jaw, she said. Sit down, Natalie. We talked for 2 hours. She ordered a black coffee and never touched it. I ordered water and drank 3 glasses. Natalie's story filled in the gaps Richard had left. Sandra had finally confessed when Natalie showed her the DNA result. Broke down at the kitchen table and admitted everything. Richard begged me not to tell anyone. He was married. He had his family. He said it would destroy everyone. Sounds familiar, I said. Natalie stirred her cold coffee. I have a dad who raised me and doesn't know I'm not his. Michael still thinks I'm his biological daughter. He sends a card every birthday. Signs it, "Love, Dad." Every single year. I set my glass down. I have a dad who raised me and doesn't know I'm his brother's daughter. He had a stroke 3 months ago, and my mother used the word adopted to stop me from being in his hospital room. We sat with that. 2 women. 2 towns. Same father. Same silence. What do we do? Natalie asked. I'm going to tell the truth. All of it. In front of everyone at Sunday dinner. Natalie looked at me. I'll be there if you want me to. I want you to. Cassandra has the DNA. She has the letter. She has the sister she never knew existed. And Richard missed his deadline. If you've ever held a truth that heavy and wondered whether to speak or stay silent, you already know what she's about to do. Subscribe so you don't miss the moment everything breaks open. Trust me, you want to be here for this. Sunday lunch at Grandma Agnes's. I arrived on time. 1 o'clock. Dish in hand. Smile in place. Donna caught me in the kitchen before I sat down. She pulled me past the pantry into the hallway near the back door where nobody could hear us over the clatter of serving spoons and Gerald's cough. Her voice was a hiss, low and sharp, like steam escaping a pipe. What did you say to Patricia at the wedding? Patricia told me something, Mom. Not the other way around. Whatever. She was drunk. She doesn't know what she's talking about. I kept my voice steady, the same tone I use when I ring a doctor with a critical lab value. No emotion. Just facts. I took a DNA test. The color left Donna's face. Not slowly. All at once, like someone had pulled a switch behind her skin. Cassandra. She grabbed my wrist. Her grip was tight. Her rings pressed into my skin. Cassandra. Honey, we need to handle this privately. As a family. You have no idea what this will do. She switched tactics. Tears came fast, practiced. The exact same tears she produced when I was 12 and asked about my birth parents. I was 24, Cassandra. I was scared. I was alone. Your father was away. Richard was, he was just there. Please, please don't destroy everything. I freed my wrist. Gently. The way you remove a blood pressure cuff, controlled, deliberate, final. You had 26 years to tell the truth, Mom. I'm giving you until next Sunday. She didn't use those 7 days to confess. She used them to build a wall. Monday, Donna rang Mason. I know because Mason rang me 40 minutes later. Mom says you're making up stories about Dad and Uncle Richard. His voice was confused. Not angry. Not yet. Just confused. The way you sound when someone tells you something that doesn't match the world you've been living in. She says you're going through something, that you're fixated on the adoption story and you're trying to tear the family apart. Did she mention the DNA test, Mason? She didn't mention a DNA test. Of course she didn't. Tuesday, Agnes rang. Her voice was iron. No pleasantries, no warmth, no how are you, dear. Straight to it. I don't know what you think you've found, but you will not bring chaos into this family. I will not allow it. Agnes, I found your letter. 3 seconds of silence. Then you had no right to go through that cupboard. And you had no right to write that letter. She hung up. Wednesday, Donna rang Patricia. Mason told me later. Claire had overheard the call on speaker. Donna's version, Patricia, love. I'm so sorry Cassandra upset you at the wedding. She's been going through a difficult time lately. We're trying to support her. Patricia's response. Donna, I said what I said and I meant it. I sat on the back step that evening and mapped it out. Donna wasn't just protecting the past anymore. She was actively building a new story, that I was unstable, emotional, delusional. She was poisoning the well before I could draw water from it. The woman who had spent 26 years lying about who I am was now lying about my sanity. Agnes rang Richard that night. Fix this or I will. Richard didn't pick up. Wednesday afternoon. Gerald rang. His voice was thin, post-stroke thin, the kind that makes you drive faster. Cass, can you come over? Your mum's at the shop. I was there in 11 minutes. He was sitting at the kitchen table, not in the armchair. At the table. Upright. Like he'd been waiting. In front of him. Their wedding photo in a brass frame and the brown envelope. I found this in the cupboard. Your mother moved it, but not carefully enough. I've been married to that woman for 33 years. I know where she hides things. He'd read the letter. I could tell by his hands. Flat on the table, pressed down hard like he was trying to stop the room from tilting. Is it true? He asked. I sat across from him. Set my phone on the table, screen facing up, showing the DNA results page. The DNA confirms it, Dad. Richard is my biological father. Gerald stared at the screen, then at the wedding photo, then out the window at the back garden where Mason and I used to catch moths in jam jars. He didn't speak for a long time. When he finally did, his voice was barely steady. I always sensed something wasn't right. The timing. The way your mother behaved when she told me about the adoption. The way Richard looked at you. He paused. But I told myself a lie was easier than losing everything. I didn't answer that. There was nothing to say. Then Gerald said the words I didn't know I needed to hear. Quiet, raw, like he was pulling them from somewhere deep. You're my daughter, Cass. DNA or not. You've always been my daughter. I cried. First time in this whole story. First time in years if I'm honest. He reached across the table and held my hand. His grip was weak on the right side, the stroke side, but he held on. What are you going to do? Tell the truth. At Sunday dinner in front of everyone. Gerald nodded. Slow. Certain. I'll be there. Thursday I went to the house again. This time, I brought the envelope and the printed DNA results. Donna was in the kitchen wiping the counter. The same counter she'd wiped 10,000 times in the same circular motion. Like she could scrub the truth off any surface if she rubbed hard enough. She saw the envelope in my hand. The cloth stopped moving. I looked for my adoption papers, Mum. Cassandra, I can explain. There were no adoption papers, Mum. Because there was no adoption. She stood perfectly still. The cloth dripped onto the counter. Drip. 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 I opened the printout and laid it beside the cloth. Richard Whitmore, parent, 50% shared DNA. Donna lowered herself into the kitchen chair, as if her legs had stopped working. The tears came fast, loud, hands over her face, shoulders shaking, the full performance. I was so young. I was so frightened. You have to understand. If Gerald had found out, I would have lost everything. The house, the family, all of it. You did lose everything, Mum. You just delayed it by 26 years. The tears stopped. Just like that. Like someone had turned a tap. Beneath them was something colder, harder. So what? Her voice was flat. You're going to humiliate me in front of the whole family. After everything I've done for you? You told me I was adopted to avoid admitting you'd had an affair with my father's brother. That's not something you did for me, Mum. That's something you did to me. I am your mother. Then act like one. Tell the truth at Sunday dinner or I will. The brown envelope sat on the counter between us. Neither of us touched it. I walked out. She didn't follow. Friday and Saturday I prepared. I printed a second copy of the DNA results. Photocopied Agnes's letter. The original went into my bedside drawer in a sealed bag. 26-year-old ink on 26-year-old paper deserves protection, even when the words on it don't. I called Natalie. Sunday, 1 o'clock. Agnes's farmhouse on the main road. White cladding, long driveway. You can't miss it. Are you still in? I'll be there. I'm bringing my own DNA results. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed Saturday evening while I laid everything out. Folder, printouts, photocopied letter. He watched me arrange the pages the same way I arrange lab reports, neat, sequential, tabbed. You don't have to do this in front of everyone, he said. They lied in front of everyone for 26 years. Sunday dinners, Christmas mornings, birthday parties. Every occasion was a stage for the lie. The truth deserves the same audience. He nodded. He didn't argue. Daniel is the kind of man who pushes back when he thinks you're wrong, and goes quiet when he knows you're right. I chose my outfit. White blouse. Dark trousers. Simple. Clean. The kind of thing you wear when you're about to deliver results, not revenge. I clasped the locket around my neck. Felt its familiar weight against my collarbone. One last moment. Saturday night, 11 o'clock. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Daniel's arm across my waist. The house quiet except for the hum of the boiler and the tick of the kitchen clock. What if they hate me? I whispered. Daniel pulled me closer. They lied to you for 26 years. If anyone should be asking that question, it's them. Sunday morning. I put on the white blouse, clasped the silver locket, picked up the folder, and drove to Agnes's house for the last time. 12:45 p.m. Agnes's farmhouse. White clapboard, dark shutters, gravel driveway lined with cherry trees just coming into blossom. The house smelled the way it always does on Sundays. Roast potatoes, slow-cooked meat, and the ghost of 50 years of secrets. Daniel parked behind Mason's car. I carried the folder under my arm like a textbook. Walked up the porch steps. Brass knocker. Welcome mat that read, "Bless this home." Everyone was already seated. Agnes at the head. Donna to her right. Eyes red, shoulders pulled in, gripping a water glass with both hands. Gerald across from her. Steady, tired, wearing the gray pullover I'd ironed for him last week. Mason and Claire near the kitchen door. Richard at the far end, staring at his empty plate like it held instructions he couldn't decipher. Patricia beside him, sitting straight, lips pressed together, not looking at anyone. Olivia and James were their two newlyweds. Olivia smiled at me. Genuine. The same warm smile she'd had since we were kids sharing crayons at Agnes's coffee table. 10 people. One dining table. One lie about to end. I sat in my usual chair, furthest from Agnes, near the window. Daniel took the seat along the wall behind me. Quiet. Present. I slid the folder under my chair. Gerald caught my eye and gave one small nod. His expression said, "I'm here." Agnes said grace. Mason said amen. Dishes went around. Roast was served. Vegetables. Bread rolls. Glasses of water and squash. 15 minutes of small talk. Weather. James's new job. Olivia's honeymoon. The village fete next weekend. I ate. I waited. I waited for the pudding. When everyone was full and settled and nobody would be leaving the table, Agnes brought out the crumble. Glass dish. Golden topping. Steam curling upward. She cut it into squares the way she's done every Sunday for as long as I can remember. I set my fork down, pushed my plate forward and stood up. The chatter stopped. 10 faces turned toward me like a current had shifted in the room. I have something I need to say. To all of you. Donna's hand flew to the table. Cassandra, not here. Here is exactly where it needs to happen. I reached under my chair, pulled out the folder and set it on the table, between the crumble dish and the water jug. Agnes's voice came from the head of the table. Cold. Controlled. The same voice she uses to open committee meetings. Sit down, Cassandra. I looked at her. 78 years old. 38 acres. 3 decades of Sunday lunches where nobody ever said no. No, Agnes. Not this time. The room went still. Nobody moved. Even the clock on the wall seemed to hold its breath. I opened the folder, pulled out the first page and began reading. Same voice I use every morning at the hospital. Calm. Precise. Not a single word wasted. 3 weeks ago I took a DNA test. I held the page steady, no tremor. The results show that my biological father is not Gerald Whitmore. Gerald looked at the table. He already knew. But hearing it spoken aloud in front of everyone in that room, his jaw tightened. His right hand curled into a loose fist. My biological father is Richard Whitmore. Silence. The kind that has weight. The kind you feel pressing against your eardrums. Mason stood up. His chair scraped the floor. What are you on about? Claire put her hand on his arm. He shook it off but didn't move away. Patricia turned her head slowly toward Richard, like a beam finding its target. Richard didn't look up. He stared at his hands. The same thick carpenter's hands that built fitted wardrobes and kitchen shelving in 26 years of silence. Donna started immediately. This is ridiculous. She's confused. Those tests are unreliable. You can't trust something you order online. I kept my voice level. I run these tests for a living, Mom. I've processed over 600 paternity panels in the past year. A 50% shared DNA match carries a confidence level of 99%. These tests are not wrong. I slid the printout across the table. Mason picked it up. His eyes moved across the page. I watched him find the match. Richard Whitmore, parent, 50% shared DNA. Mason's lips moved while he read, then stopped. He looked at Donna. Mom, is this true? Donna's mouth closed, opened again. Nothing came out. Olivia reached for James's hand beneath the table. Agnes hadn't moved. Her serving spoon was still suspended in midair. A perfect square of crumble balanced on the edge. Mom. Mason's voice was harder now. Is this true? Donna pressed her napkin to her mouth and began to cry. I reached into my bag, lifted out the brown envelope, and placed it on the table, right beside the crumble dish, where everyone could see the yellowed corners and the brittle old tape. This was in Mom's cupboard. Inside is a letter. Handwritten. Dated July 1996. I was 4 months old. Agnes spoke. I don't know what you're referring to. I pulled the photocopy from the folder and read it aloud. Every word. Same steady rhythm. Donna, this is the story we tell. She is adopted. We found her through the church network. No one questions the church. Do not let Richard near her in public. Agnes. I looked at Agnes. You wrote this letter. You designed the lie. You used the church as your cover story. Agnes didn't flinch. Didn't deny it. Her chin lifted 1/4 inch. The same way it does when someone forgets to say grace before eating. I did what I had to do to protect this family. You didn't protect this family, Agnes. You buried the truth beneath it. And then you built everything on top, the land, the name, the Sunday dinners, on top of a lie. Mason, still holding the DNA printout, reached for the photocopy. He read it. His hands were shaking. Grandma, you knew about this the entire time. Sit down, Mason. Don't tell me to sit down. The hierarchy cracked right there, over crumble and squash. I turned to Patricia, softened my voice slightly. She deserved that much. Aunt Patricia, at the wedding you said something to me. You said, you look exactly like Uncle Richard, right? Patricia nodded. Tears on her cheeks. Silent. You were right. The front door opened. Every head turned. Natalie Osborne stood in the doorway. Brown hair pulled back. Left side dimple. Same jaw as mine. Same jaw as Richard's. She was wearing a navy blouse and dark jeans. She held a clear plastic folder in both hands, just like mine. Patricia saw her first. Her hand went to her mouth. Richard saw her second. He stood up so fast his chair tipped backward and crashed to the floor. The sound echoed through the room like a thunderclap. Everyone, I said, this is Natalie Osborne. She's 27 years old. She's from Cranford. And she's Richard's daughter. Richard's voice broke. Cassandra, please. Natalie stepped further into the room. She didn't look at Richard. She looked at the family. At the faces around the table. At the crumble and the water and the bread rolls and 26 years of lies laid out across the dining table like evidence in a courtroom. My name is Natalie. I spent 27 years being told my father walked out before I was born. Her voice was steady. She'd rehearsed this. I could tell. He didn't walk out. He was sitting at this table. Patricia stood up. Looked at Richard. How many? Her voice was flat. Not a scream. Worse than a scream. A scream has heat. This was ice. How many more are there? Richard, please. How many? He didn't answer. Donna made one last attempt. This woman could be anyone. You can't just walk into someone's home, and… Natalie set her folder on the table and opened it. Slid her DNA printout next to mine. Richard Whitmore, parent, 50% shared DNA. Same as mine. Donna's mouth closed. She sat back. Her fight was gone. 2 DNA results. 1 table. 1 man who fathered 2 separate families he never claimed. Donna stood up. Her chair scraped hard against the floor. Her voice cracked open, the sound of something held too tightly for too long. You're tearing this family apart, Cassandra. After everything we did for you, after we raised you and gave you a home, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. You lied about who I am for 26 years. That's not something you did for me, Mom. That's something you did to me. Agnes spoke next. She didn't shout. Agnes doesn't shout. She delivered her words like a verdict. If you walk out that door, Cassandra, don't come back. You are no longer part of this family. I turned to face her. 78 years old. 38 acres. Women's Fellowship Chair. Architect of Sunday dinners and generational lies. I was never part of this family, Agnes. You made sure of that. I held her gaze. The land stays in the bloodline, remember? Your words. October at this table. Mason's face had gone white. He looked from Donna to Agnes to Richard. I can't believe any of you. Richard was crying. Head down. Shoulders caved forward. Hands gripping the edge of the table. I'm sorry. I should have told you. I wanted to. Patricia cut him off. Her voice was low. Controlled. Utterly calm. Get out of this house tonight. Pack a bag. I don't care where you go. Richard. Out. Gerald hadn't spoken through any of it. He sat with his hands flat on the table, the stroke side trembling slightly. When the room finally fell quiet, the kind of quiet that follows a collapse, he spoke. Donna. His voice was gravel. Were there others? Besides Richard? She looked at him. Mascara running. Lips parted. Gerald, were there others? She didn't answer. And in that silence, the last wall came down. I stood. Looked around the table. Donna crying into her hands. Agnes rigid, staring at the wall above my head. Richard folded forward. Forehead nearly touching the surface. Patricia standing, arms crossed, trembling. Mason with his head in his hands. Claire rubbing his back. Olivia with her face pressed into James's shoulder. Gerald seated, still looking straight at me. Natalie standing by the door. Patient. Like someone who had been waiting her whole life to leave a house she had only just entered. I reached up to my neck and unclasped the silver locket. Held it in my palm for a moment. The weight of it. The warmth from 22 years of wearing it against my skin. The little C engraved in careful lettering. By a man who gave me a pendant because he couldn't give me his name. I set it on the table. Next to the brown envelope. Next to the 2 DNA printouts. Next to the crumble that nobody was going to eat. I spent 26 years earning my place in a family that already owed me the truth. I turned, walked past Natalie. Past the screen door with the brass knocker. Past the welcome mat that said bless this home. Down the porch steps, across the gravel. Daniel was leaning against the car. He opened the passenger door without asking. I got in. He got in. The engine started. Gravel crunched beneath the tires. And in the wing mirror, Agnes's white farmhouse grew smaller and smaller. Until the cherry trees swallowed it whole. I didn't cry. I didn't look back. 3 families. 5 days. Here's what happened after. Gerald moved out of the pale blue house within 2 weeks. Packed a Holdall and his blood pressure medication and drove to the Comfort Inn on the main road. Room 214. He filed for legal separation in May. 33 years of marriage, undone by a letter he never should have had to find. Donna stayed in the house alone. The florist cut her hours. She couldn't focus. Kept miscounting stems, wrapping arrangements with shaking hands. Mason rang her, but the conversations were brief, clipped. He'd say I love you, Mum, at the end, but the warmth was gone, replaced by something careful and measured, like a man testing weight on a cracked floorboard. Richard moved out the night of the dinner. Patricia packed his bag for him, folded his shirts, zipped the Holdall, placed it on the porch. No screaming. No scene. Just a closed door and a deadbolt turning. He slept at the Hartwell Motor Lodge for 3 weeks, then rented the room above his own workshop. 40 feet of plasterboard ceiling and a camp bed that creaked every time he moved. Olivia stopped returning his calls. Patricia filed for divorce in June. Natalie rang Michael Osborne, the man who raised her, who signed every birthday card "Love, Dad," and told him the truth. Michael went quiet for 4 days. Then he rang back. "You're still my girl, Natalie. That doesn't change." Sandra wrote Natalie a letter. First apology in 27 years. And Agnes. The whispers started at Hartwell Community Church within the week. Small town. Big news travels at the speed of a car park after the service. She stepped down from the Women's Fellowship in May. The 38 acres were still hers. The oak table was still there. But nobody came for Sunday lunch anymore. The roast stayed in the freezer. The bread went unbaked. Gerald rang me on a Tuesday. "I'm at the Comfort in room 214. Can you drop in my blood pressure tablets?" I left them on the bathroom shelf. I drove over. Brought the tablets. Sat with him for an hour. We didn't say much. He had a vending machine sandwich. I had a can of cola. The ice machine hummed in the corridor. He looked at me once halfway through the silence and said, "Best lab tech in the county." I almost smiled. 3 months later, Gerald found a 1-bedroom flat on Laurel Street, 6 minutes from the hospital. I helped him move in. Carried boxes. Hung curtains. Programmed the coffee machine. His right hand was getting stronger. He'd started walking 2 miles each morning. He looked 10 years younger without the weight of a house built on lies. Natalie and I became something neither of us expected. Not friends, that word is too small. Sisters. We met every fortnight, taking turns to make the drive. She liked black coffee and old country music. I liked sparkling water and crossword puzzles. We had the same laugh. A short exhale through the nose, followed by a slow shake of the head. Richard's laugh, apparently. Donna rang 3 times. I didn't answer. The 3rd time she left a voicemail. "I'm your mother, Cassandra. You can't erase that." I listened to it once, then deleted it. I didn't know her response. I'd given her 26 years of silence. She could have a few months of mine. Richard sent a letter. 6 handwritten pages. I read every word, folded it, placed it in the bedside drawer beside the original brown envelope. I wasn't ready to reply. Maybe I would someday. Maybe I wouldn't. That decision was mine now. Agnes didn't ring. I didn't wait for her to. In July, Daniel proposed. Kitchen table. No restaurant booking, no rehearsed speech. Just a ring and a question. And the steadiest person I've ever known looking at me like I was enough. I said yes. On the counter behind him, the DNA kit box still sat on the shelf. White cardboard. Barcode sticker. The thing that weighed barely a few grams and rearranged 3 families in 5 days. I kept it there. Not as a trophy. As a reminder. I registered a corrected birth certificate. The father line, previously blank, now reads, Gerald Whitmore. Because a father is the man who drives an hour and a half to sit in the back row with a petrol station bouquet and clap when they call your name. I didn't destroy 3 families. A lie did. I just turned on the light. That's my story. 26 years of silence, 1 DNA test, and 3 families who finally had to face the truth. If this reminded you that you deserve honest answers, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment, hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.